Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Exodia Necross deck. Now this deck was requested by the Mervil, and I've always wanted to do this deck, I just haven't gotten around to it. This deck is definitely not meant to be a competitive deck just because there are still ways to get around Exodia Necross. He can be affected by monster effects, which really annoys this deck. There's a lot of things that cards can do to deal with him. So because of that, it's not very competitive, but it can still be very fun to play and annoying to deal with when you're going up against some decks. But the main idea behind the deck is obviously Exodia Necross, which I'll talk about when I get to him. But first off, we have 3 Dark Grephers. Dark Grepher is an amazing card in this deck, allowing you to dump those cards into the graveyard, so you can get the Exodia pieces into the graveyard and get another Exodia piece in the graveyard, which allows you to bring out Necross very quickly. Plaguespreader, also really good card in this deck, another dark card that you can dump, and also you can obviously bring them back from the graveyard. Plaguespreader gives this deck another option, so you have Necross on top of Synchros, so with that, you have some other plays you can do, which is really nice. Another way to kind of back up Necross early on. And then Destiny Hero Malicious, another great card when it gets dumped in the graveyard, so another alternative that you can use to bring out, powerful monsters, so you can use that for your Synchros very nicely. And then we have Exodia Necross. So Exodia Necross is a very interesting card. The main idea is that he has to be special summoned with the magic card after you get all your Exodia pieces to the graveyard. He can't be destroyed by battle, he can't be destroyed by spells or traps, but the big deal is that he gets destroyed if the Exodia pieces aren't in the graveyard, and he can get affected by monster effects, and he can get bounced, so there's a lot of things that can really mess with him. So the idea behind the deck is to get him out and use things to protect him, and he'll keep increasing in attack, so eventually he'll become too powerful and your opponent won't be able to deal with him. Then Armageddon Knight, also very good for this deck to get dark monsters to the graveyard. We can do that with the pieces, and we can do that later on in the duel to get out Plaguespreader and Malicious very nicely. Summoner Monk, great card in this deck, dumping spell cards to summon out Armageddon Knight, so you can get Exodia pieces to the graveyard, or you can, bring out Dark Grepher, so you can do different things, and then you can also XYZ on top of it, which is very, very nice. And then the Exodia pieces, you won't be trying to get them in your hand, but obviously you need one of each. And then Contract with Exodia, this is just the card used to summon Necross, another part of the annoying part of this deck, because you require a spell card on top of having Necross and all the Exodia pieces just to get him out. And then Pot of Duality, really needed for consistency in this deck. Destiny Draw to dump Malicious and get some draw power, which is very, very nice. Forbidden Lance, very good to protect your monsters. You can still get affected by spells and traps, so you really want to have a card like this. Dark Hole, when you're using these weaker monsters early on, definitely good to have this to wipe your opponent's field. Allure of Darkness, more draw power, and you're using all dark monsters, so this works nicely. One Day of Peace, great for this deck. Obviously you need a lot of cards to make this deck work, and stalling can be very important. Foolish Burial, an obvious choice for this deck. You can use cards from the graveyard very easily. But the traps are going to have 2 Safe Zone. Safe Zone makes Necross almost invincible, so it's very, very powerful when you have Necross and Safe Zone out. Thought about running 3, but I really needed more cards to make this deck consistent. Also Torrential Tribute and Solemn Warning helping out. Now for the extra deck, we're going to have a few different 4-stars. So we're going to have Maestroke Beetle, very nice card to have here. Can protect things obviously, and you have all dark monsters, so this guy will get out easily. And then just a lot of staples: Maestroke, Exciton, Silent Honor, Blackship, and Photon. 2 Lavalval Chains, very, very good for this deck. Sending what you need to the graveyard, and getting cards you need to the top of the deck, which is very important. For the Synchros, Dark End Dragon with these dark monsters, Scrap Dragon, Void Ogre, also with dark monsters. You're using a lot of hand resources, so Void Ogre can be very, very useful. And then we have Stardust, Crimson Blader, Iron Chain Dragon, and Revive King with the access to 6 stars. So definitely an interesting extra deck, giving you access to a lot of the normal cards that people still use, even though you're using a pretty gimmicky deck. So now for the side deck. Again, side decks in my videos are kind of just recommended cards that can also work when you're building the main deck. It isn't really a side deck for matches, so don't try to think of it that way. So you can use a lot of stall cards in this deck to help out. Swift Scarecrow can be nice, along with Battle Fader. Battle Fader is also a dark type, so that can be useful for some of the other things in the deck. The End of Anubis, cards like that that can protect the graveyard can be very, very nice if you think you're going to lose those pieces. Cardigue, very useful for getting the cards you need. You can also run Exodia, just kind of an interesting thing you can do to set up and get those pieces to the graveyard, so definitely an interesting choice. Advanced Ritual Art. If you're running ritual monsters, you can use this as another alternative to send all those Exodia pieces to the graveyard. Necro Valley, you can run this deck with Gravekeepers. Another interesting thing, Necro Valley will protect the Exodia pieces in the graveyard. Flameberg can help you protect Exodia, which is very, very nice. You don't want to deal with those monster effects. Hand Destruction, Dark Will Dealings for getting what you need to the graveyard. Wabaku, other protection traps can be very useful. Divine Wrath, really, really good to dump cards, but also negate monster effects. Spirit Barrier, kind of like Safe Zone, another way to help you kind of have a more invincible setup on the field. Dark Illusion to protect these monsters, especially, Exodia. And Imperial Iron Wall, another card to protect you from those cards in the graveyard getting banished or something happening to those, which can obviously be very annoying for your deck. So that's my Exodia Necross deck. There's probably some other tech you can use. You can use Upstart Goblin to thin the deck. There's a lot of other cards that you can probably use to get things to the graveyard, but I personally think my setup does it in kind of the best way, and it still gives you some support because Necross isn't invincible. He's a great card when you get him out, but you still need ways to protect him. So I like having things like this, but there are, other things that you can do to protect yourself. But if you guys have your own Exodia Necross deck, post below, let me know in the comments. If you guys have suggestions for cards that might be useful for this deck, please post below. Also, because I'd really like to see those. Maybe there's some things I didn't think about, and that would be really cool to see. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.